This is Larry Jordan, the host of the Digital Production Buzz. The following interview is an excerpt from a recent program. To hear the entire program, visit digitalproductionbuzz.com. James Castle Stevens is currently the Director of Marketing for my company, Larry Jordan Associates, Inc., and the Digital Production Buzz. Prior to that, though, he spent 16 years in Los Angeles as a professional actor. He started by studying with notable instructors like F. Murray Abraham and John Lancie, but James soon started working on such television shows as Star Trek: The Next Generation, The Drew Carey Show, The King of Queens, and Heroes. Welcome, James. Good to have you with us.
It's great to be here.
What do you consider the most valuable qualities for a successful actor?
Tenacity is number one. Because, we're talking about there's acting, which is the art and the fun and the joy, and then there's the business. They don't call it show fun. They call it show business. So tenacity is number one. Absolutely.
And coping with rejection, I'm sure, has got to be number two.
Absolutely. You have to start to realize as an actor that you're a product. And, that's not to say that it can be that separate from yourself. You are a product, but you're also you. So you have to start to compartmentalize a little bit, realize that you're selling a product, but at the same time, be yourself. That's an interesting balancing act.
Well, one of the things that you have is a unique perspective because you're both an actor and a director, especially working in theater as opposed to film and television. And from an actor's point of view, what makes a good director, say for film and TV, casting back to your Star Trek or Heroes days?
Jeez, yeah. And of course it changes for everybody and it changes on the situation. For me, though, one of the best qualities that a director would have is letting you do what you do first. You know what I mean? They allow you to try something, allow you to do your best first choice. A lot of directors will come from different parts of, the entertainment industry, like editors, for instance, or a writer, and sometimes the writer has a very specific idea of this is how I want it to be. This is how I wrote it. And then they start directing and they're not saying, hey, go play, show me something, show me what your first choice is. They just, this is how I want you to do it. And they'll just tell you right flat out, they'll put you in a box right off the bat. And it kind of it crushes all creativity. The directors, I find that usually the one quality I like the most is when they kind of go, okay, this is nice and easy. Let's take it easy. Let's just go ahead and let's play. Let's try this. And of course, if they don't get what they want, if they don't get a good choice, and they go, okay, now that they've seen something, they go, okay, I see what you did. Great. Let's try this then. Let's see if we can bring it into the world that I want you to bring it into rather than what you did yourself.
Well, one of the things that I've heard, although not always followed, is the admonition that directors should not give line readings. Why not?
Yeah. First of all, because you're kind of stepping on the actor's bailiwick. This is his or hers arena. And by giving a line reading, you're basically saying, do it exactly like this, which is kind of per what I was just saying before. Interpretation is incredibly important. And if the director says, do it just like this, you've just quelched all type of creativity out of the process. It's more than that, too. There's obviously egos involved and things like that as well. But part of it also is the director may not be the best person to give that line reading. You may do it exactly the way the director asked, and the director will still be unsatisfied because it wasn't necessarily a good reading.
In other words, the director may not be able to act.
That does happen, yes.
Well, give me an example of a director that you've worked with that you enjoyed working with. What was their style that you liked?
There's several. Jonathan Frakes on Star Trek was a good example. He is a very fun-loving guy. You never got the impression that he took anything seriously, although obviously the job got done. He was doing Star Trek, he did the movies after that. You're doing 8 days of work to get an hour program recorded. And he's working with, all these actors and all these technical folks and special effects that have to come afterward and all these considerations. And he seems like he's just having a ball. And he's joking and he's laughing and he's, taking time to be silly and he's encouraging goofiness on the set. And you're like, how does anything get done? But because, first of all, these are very professional folks. And when it came time to do what you had to do, you get it done. And then let's go enjoy ourselves. It made for a really, really enjoyable experience on the set. Another director I might mention would be Rob Schiller. He directs for sitcoms primarily. And he really just affable, easygoing, soft-spoken, not a screamer, as is sometimes the case. Was just super nice, very kind, and would come over and quietly whisper something to you to say, I'd like you to try something a little more like this. And you really got the feeling that you were collaborating with him rather than just being told, hey, go, louder, funnier, He was really, really intimate with it, and it was very nice.
Well, what are things that are mistakes? And you don't necessarily need to name names because I want to have you stay employed in the industry, but where have they been not helpful?
Yeah, usually I'm thinking of someone in particular, and if he ever watches this, he'll probably know I'm talking about him because he's a friend. He's a very nice person off set, but he was very abrasive. He's a yeller. He likes to drama. He ran a set like a Greek wedding. A lot of screaming, a lot of emotions, and like a Greek wedding, probably a lot of love in there too. And if you were on the set for a long time, you knew this. You knew that it was just a lot of bark, not a lot of bite, and it was just the way he liked to work. It was very explosive, very, very emotional. But I don't find that to be very, very helpful to anybody who came on who was new. Certainly if you were new to the industry, you're probably, what is going on with this man? Why is he screaming at me? And you came to realize, again, over time, it was just the way he worked. But, oh no, that's not helpful. It's not conducive to good work.
What are some other mistakes that are common that you've run into? Sure.
One of the things that I find is a bigger problem is that often a director will have a very clear idea in their mind how they want the end result to be. And they will start to basically tell you what they want the end result to be. They won't give you a chance to explore those options, so kind of what we were talking about before, but they'll tell you specifically. By this moment, by this line right here, I would like to see you get to this high point of emotionality. Okay, that's an end result, but can you give me some, how do you want me to get there? Can we talk about the process? Can we talk about what's going on for this character at this moment? You're saying you want this huge moment here, but we haven't done any of the work to get there. And so it's those things where the director is looking for the end result.
Just stop there for a second.
Sure.
I would have thought that setting the direction of where you want them to go would be much more helpful than say, here's the steps you take to get there. And it sounds like you're saying just the opposite.
Well, you don't want to say, here's the steps, because that's the actor's process. The actor's going to have to find those steps for themselves. And you might talk about it from the script point of view. That is to say, this is right here. There's a transition. Right here, there's a pivot point. Right here, there's you're building up to this moment. But then here's where I think you have an epiphany. You understand what's going on, and then you make a transition. That sort of thing. That's great. But if they say, I want you to be in tears. I want you to be, I need this here. That's a little awkward because really what you should, if I were, to take on that director's point of view, it would be more, here are the stakes. Here's what's going on for you. Here is emotionally where you should be for me. Here's explaining the situation. This is your daughter is dying, whatever the situation is, and really getting into the understanding of what is the emotional content of the scene. Then let the actor do what they're doing. And if you build it up with the right information, emotional information, the actor will do the scene, the actress will do the scene, and they'll get to that point, and it'll happen. It'll absolutely happen. But if they're thinking about it, if they're in their head going, right here is the part I have to cry, never going to happen. And if it does, it'll be false.
Well, how would you contrast the ability of a television director when you've only got 8 days to do an hour show versus a theatrical director where you've got 4 weeks or 8 weeks? Is it unrealistic to assume that somebody that's a filmmaker that's trying to get that whole thing shot in a day, can they even do that kind of dramatic coaching?
No, generally they don't. Sitcom is sort of the mid-ground, but you're right. Movies and hour shows, these are 16-hour days. There's not a lot of coaching going on. Pretty much you got cast because you could do the job. If they thought you couldn't, you wouldn't have been cast. And if you show up and they probably won't give you coaching, you'll do your best job, and they'll say, great, wrap, next scene. If they don't say that, there's a good chance you'll get one note. And if it's going on to the third note, you're probably about to be released. It's a tough business. But sitcom, it's a longer form. It's 5 days, but it's only a half-hour show. They're doing rehearsals. They're rehearsing it like a little mini play. So you get a little bit of that theater experience. It can be a little looser. And then doing it usually in front of a live audience and that sort of thing. So if it's kind of this hybrid. And then, theater is you're all chummy, you're all having beers after the rehearsals. And it's a lot more fun.
Today, you're actively involved in theater. Are you more interested in acting or directing?
It's changed. Toward the end of my professional acting career, because, as you know, I'm the director of marketing for your companies. But toward the end of my professional career, I was kind of getting to the point where it was diminishing returns. You were going out for guest stars in series regular, and now you're going out for co-stars, smaller roles again, and you go, I don't want to do that. That's not the route I want to go. My daughter was born. So, you make a transition, you make a shift. But I have been directing theater because it's something that I can do, something I can do while also having a full-time job. And it's joyful. So as much as I do enjoy acting still, and I will still gladly perform in a show, directing has it's the whole enchilada. It allows me to explore all of those performances, plus the technical, plus the direction of the piece. It's very exciting.
Are you a good director or a bad director?
You'd have to ask the actors I work with.
James, thanks for joining us today. James Castle-Stevens is an actor and a director, also the director of marketing here at our company. James, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.